Trucker Dump, episode 171. In today's show, we talk about new autonomous partnerships and electric truck pilot programs, overwhelmed driver training programs, Amazon's newest thing, the future of LTL, new AB5 rulings, trucker diversity, understanding fuel surcharges, more waiver extensions, deals for National Truck Driver Appreciation Week, and much more. We get a Trucker Grub segment this time around too, and I give a listener some advice on finding a good paying driving job. This episode of Trucker Dump is sponsored by Porter Freight Funding. You can learn more at porterfreightfunding.com/truckerdump, that's all one word, or call 205-397-0934. Tell them the Trucker Dump sent you. Hit it.
Welcome to Trucker Dump, where you'll get one driver's insights and sometimes humorous views of truck driving and the trucking industry, and pretty much anything else he feels like dumping on you. This podcast is brought to you by AboutTruckDriving.com, resources to help you understand the world of truck driving through the use of stories and a pathetic attempt at humor.
Morning, y'all. Well, at least it's morning for me. Guess I should say good afternoon, good evening, good night, and good graveyard for anyone working any other shift and listening right now. Hey, I gotta admit, I am tired as crap today. I don't know why, because I didn't drive that much. I didn't have a very busy week, but for some reason I am very tired, and I'm releasing this podcast today, so I need to hurry the heck up and get this over with so I can go to bed. I hope you've had a good week, and I hope this podcast helps your day just a little bit, at least waste maybe an hour of your time, something like that. But hey, before we get into the news, I wanted to cover something we discussed in the last episode. There was an article, something to the effects of 6 pre- and post-trip myths. And basically, a lot of things that we thought about pre- and post-trips, we don't actually have to do. I just wanted to reiterate, I don't think I did it well enough in that episode, that you should not argue with your employer on this. If they want you to log 15 minutes of pre-trip at the beginning of your the beginning of your day, just do it. It's not worth an argument. You know, it's 15 minutes. Really, even though you don't have to technically, it's not worth arguing about. Okay? So I just wanted all of these 6 myths. There's some points where you could argue with your company or even a DOT officer, but just don't. You know, I mean, you can try to explain it to a DOT officer if you're about to get in trouble for something, but don't push the issue. You know, you don't want to find yourself, laying on your front with your hands cuffed and him putting on latex gloves, do you? Snap. No, you don't want that. So anyway, I just wanted to clear that up before we move on to the news. So since I am tired as crap, let's just move on to the news. Oh, wait, I guess I should actually tell you who I am first, huh? Yes, the guy rambling, my name is Todd McCann. I'm a 25-year truck driver. I've driven team, I've driven solo, all of it, dry van pretty much, and, LTL for the last 3 years. The first 22 were over the road, and I have also written 2 trucking ebooks. One is called How to Find a Great Truck Driving Job, and the other is Trucking Life. You can find both of those books at abouttruckdriving.com, where you can get a special deal for 25% off if you get both books. That is available only at abouttruckdriving.com. Those are both ebooks, and Trucking Life includes a 9.25-hour audiobook. There's a link right in there, and you can just download that and listen to your heart's content. Or you really hate my voice, whichever comes first. All right, now let's move on with the news. And for once, I think we don't have to start with a recall. Yay! Well, it's officially September, and you know as a trucker what that means. Yep, National Truck Driver Appreciation Week, which falls from September 11th to the 17th this year. While that is great, you show up to different, your work is done cookouts and things like that. Your customers that you pick up will sometimes give you little free baggies of stuff, some of their products and things like that. And that's all fine and dandy. But you know who goes the extra mile when it comes to Truck Driver Appreciation Week? Truck stops. And this article here on CDLlife.com explains all of that. First up, we're going to go with Love's, who is not just celebrating National Truck Driver Appreciation Week, but they're celebrating throughout the entire month of September. So just some of the things going on there. They got fresh food and drink deals from September 12th through the 16th, free hot sandwiches or fresh salad with an oil change September 12th through the 16th. And they're launching a new line of products for truck driver stuff like air hoses, blow gun kits, things that truckers need, gloves and all that kind of stuff. They said there's going to be in spring of next year, they're going to be growing this to about 40 additional items. So that's going to be a new line for them. That's kind of cool. There'll be discounts on those throughout the month of September and October. This line of products is going to be called Amarillo Supply Company, and there's even a way to get yourself a free Amarillo Supply Company hat. Just check out the link in the show notes to learn how to do that. But perhaps the biggest thing Love's is doing is they're giving away 23.5 million My Love's Rewards points in September. Holy moly. You're going to be entered in this every time you swipe your My Love Rewards card or, use the app. You can, they can scan the little barcode on your app if you have that. That app is free, by the way. If you want to download that for your phone, just search for the My Love's Rewards app. But anyway, here's the way this is going to go down. Every Friday, starting on September 9th, they are going to give a prize to one customer. On September 9th, it's going to be 250,000 points. That's worth $2,500. September 16th, they're going to double that to 500,000 points. That's a $5,000 retail value. September 23rd, one lucky customer is going to win 750,000 points, $7,500 retail value. And on September 30th, one really, really lucky person is going to receive the grand prize of 1 million My Love's Rewards points. That's a $10,000 retail value. Wow. That's pretty impressive. Thanks, Loves. That's pretty awesome. So everyone make sure they get into Loves throughout the month of September, and some of these deals again are going through October also. So just be looking for all that. A lot of these apps you'll find in a lot of these discounts you will find in the My Love's Rewards app. So make sure you get that downloaded. And of course, the other place we want to talk about is Pilot Flying J. They're not only doing this through September, but they are also going all the way through the end of October. They're calling it an extended truck driver appreciation celebration. Well, looky there. So here is some of the things that Pilot Flying J is doing to show their appreciation for us truckers. First, they're offering up to 3 free drink choices in the My Rewards Plus app each week. That's all the way through October 31st. That's going to include stuff like Pilot fountain drinks and coffee, sodas, energy drinks, waters, just whatever, just various things pop up. And that is only in the app. So make sure you download the My Rewards Plus app. That is free also. So get that downloaded. They also have some in-app challenges that are kind of interesting. You can earn up to 500 bonus points for those. For instance, this first one here is you just have to do 2 of 3 tasks. One is reserve a shower in the app or mobile fuel from the app, or you can reach 2.5 points per gallon in the push for points in September. So 3 easy ways to do that. Just pick 2 of them and you'll get 500 bonus points added in your app. Pretty cool. They're going to have discounts on various deli items throughout the month of September, and also during the actual week of National Truck Driver Appreciation Week, which is, again, September 11th through 17th, they're going to be offering a 50% discount on a lot of those deli items. So be sure to check that one out. In October, you're going to earn even more points than normal, up to 5 points per gallon for fueling. Now, as we talked about in the past, Pilot Flying J was a sponsor for a while. You have to activate their push for points in the My Rewards app to make sure this you get those points. And here's something kind of interesting and worth a buttload. Free, safe, and road-ready checks in September by Southern Tire Marts. That's at Pilot Flying J's. For every check you get completed, drivers will be entered into a raffle for a chance to win one of 3 sets of Bridgestone Premium steer tires. Now, steer tires ain't cheap, so you want to get in on that. And besides, you can get your truck checked out and all ready to go. Now, I know you are never going to remember all these details I just told you, so make sure you either head on over here to cdllife.com, check out this article, or better yet, just go ahead and download these apps. They're both free. Get the My Loves Rewards app and the Pilot Flying J My Rewards Plus app, and get those downloaded on your phone. Check out all the cool deals in there and take advantage of it. For once we got somebody appreciating us, let's take them up on it. Again, you can check out all the details on this one at cdllife.com. All right, let's head over to cdllife.com for I-30 traffic to shift onto new Arkansas River Bridge starting in September. Now, this one doesn't look like too big of a deal. Honestly, they are going to demolish the old bridge. This is going over the Arkansas River. That's the one on I-30 just south of I-40, where I-40 branches off and heads off south at Little Rock. It lists some things. They're going to do things in different phases here, but it doesn't look like it's going to affect traffic that much, except for, of course, the narrowing of lanes. Everything's all the they're basically just going to move all the eastbound traffic over on the westbound side for a while. So everybody will be sharing that one side of the bridge and vice versa later on. There will be some additional road construction. Yeah, like the 630 interchange, which runs into downtown Little Rock there, and where it connects with I-40 up there. But, well, I guess anytime there's some construction, I just want to let you know, not little construction, but this is probably going to be going on for over a month, and it is a major bridge replacement. So, just be expecting some delays if you go through Little Rock within September. Okay? Enough about that. cdllife.com for all the details. It does give lots of details on the way things will be rerouted and, in case you're affected by this heading into Little Rock or through Little Rock, I guess. Like I said, cdllife.com. Hey, here's an exemption on overdriveonline.com that honestly I think I just missed. You remember those torrential rains that they had in Kentucky last month, and lots of flooding going on there? Well, there was an hours of service waiver back, when that happened, to help get supplies into the area and things like that. Sorry, I forgot to report that, but apparently this has been extended through the end of September, or at least until the emergency ends, whichever is sooner. Now, this is your typical emergency declaration waiver, so basically just saying you don't have to obey the hours of service rules, and you can, that. But again, let's point out that this is only for specific things for that disaster. For instance, it doesn't list here, but I'm guessing that means like building supplies and water and things like that. But it, just like during the COVID exemptions, it doesn't mean like if you just have a little bit of lumber on your trailer, you can just ignore all the rules. It doesn't mean if you have one pallet of water that you can ignore those rules. So just be sure to make sure that you are not breaking any rules when you are breaking the rules. Okay? All right. Check out the details here on overdriveonline.com. All right. While we're on the subject of waivers, let's head over to cdllife.com. FMCSA again extends nationwide hours of service waiver for COVID-19 relief haulers throughout the fall. Wow, really? I thought, we were kind of coming to an end of this at least the worst problem of the COVID-19. A lot of restrictions are being lifted. The CDC lifted their mask mandates, and the social distancing stuff doesn't come into effect anymore. They've even changed some of their quarantine rules. But yet we're going to get this weird, necessary. It was necessary in the beginning, but this hours of service waiver is going to be extended for like another 45 days. It's going to, it was going to expire on August 31st, but they are extending it all the way out through October 15th. And at this point, it wouldn't surprise me if they just keep extending it and keep extending it and keep extending it. I guess we will find out. Again, this is only for COVID-19 things like, if you're hauling vaccines, livestock and livestock feed, medical supplies, testing kits, food, paper products, other groceries that, for restocking distribution centers. Not sure how that's relevant anymore, but, also gasoline, diesel. I don't know. It's almost like they're just putting a blanket in there because the economy stinks right now and the supply chain is all messed up. So they're just using this COVID waiver to just let some more truckers run some extra freight without any rules. Huh. Interesting. Well, I still have yet to haul one of these. If you've had any experience doing that, let me know. I did read in another article, well, maybe it was this one, that these carriers who are allowed to do this, that tell their driver that they're allowed to skip the rules on this stuff, they do have to submit, like 5 days after they let the trucker do this, they have to submit what they did to the FMCSA so it can be reviewed. So I trust that they're doing most of this stuff legal. Most of it. I guess they could just choose not to report, but I don't know if I would risk that if I was a big carrier or even a small carrier. Probably more so if I was a small carrier. Yeah. You don't want to get on the FMCSA's bad side if you are a small carrier, especially. All right. For more details on this one, like you really need them, you know how this works. Hour service waiver, whatever. CDLlife.com. Well, this is good news for the industry. Found this one on ttnews.com. That's Transport Topics. Driver training programs overwhelmed by interest. Now, again, we will not get into the whole argument of whether we have a shortage of truck drivers in the industry or whether those truck drivers just are not treated well. But regardless, it's always good to be bringing new, fresh blood into this industry because, as we know, it is a high turnover industry. People get in and they leave. Maybe it's just not for them or whatever. But the problem is, apparently, there is so much interest in this since the end of the pandemic, basically. They say, that a lot of people were disgruntled with their jobs and they started looking for other things. And what better thing to do than go to a driving school? They can have you out in 4 weeks and you've got a new career on your hands for very little money. Sometimes even the trucking companies or usually the trucking companies are willing to pay for it up front and then let you pay it back over time. Some of them, you don't even have to pay it back and you just have to just stick around for a year. Some of them don't even do that. I hear Yellow's New Academy will pay you like $18 an hour and teach you to drive a truck and you don't have to sign a contract or anything, which I don't understand that one, but I don't know how they expect to benefit on that one, but who knows? Sounds like it might be a good deal if you're interested in getting into the trucking industry. That's for sure. But anyway, they say the biggest problem here is, that there is a backlog, but the biggest problem with the backlog is, it's hard to get testing still done in this COVID era. I don't know why, but they said they are really backed up on being able to get drivers tested. And also probably the biggest issue is there is just a lack of trainers. There's not enough trainers to go around. Some of these schools are saying they are backed up. They're booked up through November already. And, just got more and more people adding on and wanting to get involved in this. Because, hey, trucking's a cool industry. And like we say, you can get into it really quick and it's good money. That was another weighing factor in this. They said that the money has gotten good enough that it has started to attract people from outside the industry. And, they wouldn't give it a second glance, when they thought they'd make, $30,000 or $40,000. They're like, why would I bother? But now that it's up around, they say an average truck driver can make $70,000. They're like, okay, well, maybe let's go look at this. So anyway, basically they're just saying that they need way more funds to increase space, instructors, equipment, all of that stuff. And, until they get more funding, I don't know where that funding comes from, honestly, but I would think that would be something that the infrastructure package that was passed recently, and they wanted to get more truck drivers interested in the industry. This seems like a perfect place to put it. Give some of these funds, give some grants, get some people in these truck driving schools. Sounds like a plan to me. I mean, if somebody wants to join the trucking industry, for Pete's sake, don't turn them away. Okay. Check this one out on ttnews.com. That's Transport Topics. So here's kind of a weird one from an odd source. This one comes from Lanier Law Firm. That's Lanier or Lanier, I'm not sure. Lanier Law Firm. And it's called 50 Tips for Truck Drivers. Now, hang on a second. I know what you're thinking. A law firm? What the heck? Isn't that usually a truck attorney type place? Yes, it is. And yes, I understand. Most of the time we deem these people as enemies of truckers. But, if a good article is on the internet, a good article is on the internet. So this is what Lanier Law Firm, they reached out to me and told me about their 50 tips for truck drivers. I went over and checked it out, and it is a very good list with the caveat for new truckers or people interested in getting into the industry. None of these 50 tips is going to matter to anybody who's driven a truck for very long because they are very basic tips we all know and we all do every day for the most part. I mean, honestly, it couldn't hurt to just read through these. It's really quick. It's set up in an infographic type layout and, really quick tips. I read all through all 50. Like I say, it never hurts to remind yourself of some of these tips and some of these, not just safety tips, but just, good tips in general for truckers. So like I said, this is mainly just going to benefit brand new truckers or people coming into the industry. But if you are one of those types, be sure to check out 50 tips for truck drivers over here at lanierlawfirm.com. And I'll put a link in the show notes, of course. And thanks to Lanier Law Firm for reaching out to me and letting me know about this article. And remember the name Todd McCann in case I'm ever a defendant against you. Okay? Thank you. Brownie points. Let us head on over to ttnews.com. That's Transport Topics for this next article. ATA Group advances trucking diversity initiative. As we spoke about before, the ATA is the American Trucking Association. They are the giant organization that represents pretty much all the big fleets. Pretty much every big fleet is a part of this group. Well, they have started this new thing called the ATA Diversity and Inclusion Working Group. Basically, this is just the start of something bigger, they hope, and that is to relay information back and forth to and make a set of guidelines to have diversity and inclusion as part of the trucking industry. And they're not just talking about for truck drivers to get more truck drivers. Obviously that's part of it, but they are also talking about, office and management and, just pretty much anybody that works within the trucking industry. We've spoken about this in the past, how, I was amazed at how many women there were actually in the upper management teams. Well, it just makes sense that you should get more diversity in the upper management also, so they can make their specific, how do you put it? Their specific viewpoints, shown within the company itself. Now, as I've also said on here before, I am not one of those people who says diversity for the sake of diversity. Choose the best candidate, okay? But if you've got two equal candidates, one's another white middle-aged dude and another is an older Latino or, a black woman or whatever, choose them. If they've got the same categories, I've got no problem with that whatsoever. But diversity for the sake of diversity, I'm not into that. You still have to choose the best person for the job. Sorry, but I just don't believe in the fact that you should have an unfair advantage simply because you are a person of color or you're a woman. Sorry, that's just the way I look at it. And there goes half the listenership. But anyway, the ATA, cool thing that they did about this, and I thought it was pretty cool, is that they did not just plan this diversity work group just for them. They knew, as like I said, they represent a lot of big fleets, and they knew they had more resources than a lot of these real small trucking companies, the owner operator with 5 trucks or 10 trucks or something, or even just one truck. So they wanted to make this accessible to everyone, so everyone can use these best practices and everyone can benefit from them. And they have designed this in mind where, it's not just addressing the big fleets, but the little fleets can use it too. So that's cool. Now, we will see where all of this goes, if anything actually comes from it, or if this is just another one of those things that they put out there and go, hey, look at us. Look how hip and politically correct we are because we added a diversity group, diversity and inclusion working group. Both of those real key words in today's society, right? Diversity and inclusion. Yeah. Well, we'll see how this goes. Good luck to him. I hope it works. And, maybe we will diversify this industry just a little bit more. I never think that's a bad thing. Unless, of course, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. just to be diverse and inclusive. Got to say both of those words nowadays, don't you? Or you're in big trouble. Now, there is more to this article. If you want more details about everything that's going on here, just make sure you head on over here to ttnews.com. That's Transport Topics. All right, here's an interesting one over on landline.media. And honestly, something I have a vested interest in. This one is called LTL Business is Facing a Radical Transformation. So this one can be wrapped up in a quick 1-2 punch here. The first reason the LTL business is changing is because of something called onshoring, which, as you might guess, is the opposite of offshoring. Of course, offshoring is where businesses move their American businesses move their businesses overseas because it's cheaper to manufacture and all that stuff. Well, there is now a trend of onshoring, probably because of all the things going on in China and how volatile, everything is, and the supply chain. We figured out it, just doesn't work sometimes when you need to get something from far, far away. And this whole just in time thing, not it's all cracked up to be. And companies are looking at moving their businesses back on shore. And because of that, they're saying that, used to LTL just carried a lot of finished product, and maybe they just took it from one customer to another, usually commercial customers from one to another, or business to business type stuff. But now they're saying with all this manufacturing coming back into the States, that is also going to mean that all the little pieces and parts that go into the production assembly are also going to need to be moved. So there are speculations that the volume of industrial LTL will grow from like 2 to 5 times what it would normally be. Now, I can say right now that would be welcome, and this may take a while, but that would be really welcome because LTL is slow all across the board. I think trucking is in general, but LTL seems to be getting pretty dang hard. I thought it was just my company, but the more I ask around and everything, the more I know it's everybody. It's not just my company. And the second of the 1-2 punch here is, of course, just the increase in e-commerce sales. This started happening during the COVID era. Lots of people started ordering more things online. And of course, that means those things have to get delivered to the customer. So of course, this really focuses on companies like UPS, FedEx, DHL, USPS, companies that actually deliver straight to your door. Now, a lot of the, big LTL companies will actually deliver to your door, but it's not a normal thing. It's maybe if you're getting a giant treadmill or something, Saya or R&L or whoever is going to deliver that to your door rather than FedEx trying to handle it. But, this is all very interesting. I hope it happens. And, because I'm in the LTL industry, I'd love to see it boom. And it sounds like it would be a really good time to get into the LTL industry. Well, maybe not right now because it's a little slow, but, for the future, you might want to think about that. 3 to 5 times growth. Okay, check this one out on landline.media, and I will get off my LTL high horse. Although the money is real good way up here on this horse. Okay, here's one that lots of trucking companies might be excited about. Well, maybe, I'm not sure. Warehousing companies, not so much. They won't like this at all. So what are we talking about here? Freightwaves.com has this one. Amazon warehousing and distribution is company's latest foray into logistics. Yep. We all know, Amazon is an online service. They, sell products, and they, branched into trucking, like long haul trucking. And then they went into local delivery. So there's that going on too. Well, the last and final step pretty much is warehousing and distribution. And, they have been building quite a bit of warehouses. And what this is going to enable people to do is if you sell on Amazon, you would just be able to ship directly there. A lot of what has been happening in the past is, if you got things from overseas, you had your products made overseas and you'd have them shipped across, you'd have to find some sort of warehousing until Amazon was ready for them. And then you could ship them a little bit at a time, and then they would move it around to whichever Amazon distribution center they felt necessary. Well, now they're going to handle all that for you. Of course, there'll be a fee, tacked onto this. But, they will take care of all that stuff for you. And you will just be able to ship straight from the manufacturer or whatever straight into the Amazon warehouse. And they'll be happy to store all your stuff for you for a fee, of course. Now, what I would think would make trucking companies really happy, especially a lot of the larger fleets, is that right now Amazon, well, any big company like Amazon, Walmart, whatever, they tend to use lots of trucking companies for their storage. They pay them just a wee bit amount to use trailers as storage. And as we all know, trailers are in high supply right now, or high demand, I should say, not a high supply. There's no supply. People are digging freaking trailers out of the junkyard and fixing them up, trying to just supply all the needs they have. Man, it's a mess. But maybe this Amazon warehousing will help if they just keep building like they are. It does say that they've slowed down a little bit because of the economy and the way, inflation and everything. But they are, it's just kind of like they described it as letting off on the accelerator. They haven't stopped completely. They just let off a little bit. But, if they keep building all these Amazon warehouses, of course, they're going to have a bigger share of everything having to do with the trucking industry and the warehousing industry, the whole transportation shebang. But, maybe it will free up a lot of these extra trailers. Who knows? I hope so, because my company is affected by this a lot. We'll have trouble finding it empty, and then we go out there to discover we got 40 trailers on our lot that has Amazon products on it. But, Amazon is one of those big ones, like Walmart, that you just can't say no to. You just let them walk all over you because, well, they're Amazon. They can do that. So anyway, just an interesting little article here. There's a lot more detail about it. So if you're interested in this and see what Amazon is up to, go over to freightwaves.com and check this one out. Hey, something you're never going to hear an owner-operator say? Yeah, I got the job done, but you can just pay me whenever. 2, 3, 4 months, whatever. That would be insane. So why are you waiting so long to get paid? Screw that noise. Quit being a big dummy and call Porter Freight Funding to get paid within 24 hours. For the record, I'm the one that's calling you a big dummy, not the good folks at Porter Freight Funding. If you want to rat me out, head on over to porterfreightfunding.com/truckerdump or give them a call at 205-397-0934. While you're there, sign up for an account so you can get your money super quick from now on. You can use them for all your collection needs or only those pain in the butt customers. You know who they are. Porter Freight Funding can also help you with brokering, dispatching, fuel cards, insurance, and any compliance questions you might have. So what are you waiting for? Please help the show by getting your keister over to porterfreightfunding.com/truckerdump or give them a call at 205-397-0934. And be sure to tell them you heard about them on the Trucker Dump podcast. And thanks to Porter Freight Funding for sponsoring this episode of Trucker Dump. I think we'd all like to see California's AB5 rule go by the wayside and just get out of the news cycle, but it's here to stay for quite a while, apparently. You'll find this article on freightwaves.com. Lower court formally lifts injunction against AB5 in California trucking. Okay. Now, as we spoke about before, the Supreme Court looked at this and said, nah, we're just not going to bother ruling on this. Basically, when the Supreme Court decided not to look at it, it went back down to the lower courts, and their decision stands because the only reason California, one court had basically ordered an injunction against implementing AB5 until the Supreme Court had ruled on it, basically. So once the Supreme Court decided not to rule on it, then that injunction could not stand any longer. So starting as of Monday, that would be August the 29th, that injunction was dropped and they can start adding, they can start implementing these AB5 rules on these lease operators out there. Bummer. But as I say, this is still not over. They've got another couple of angles they're going to go at this. Initially, what they were trying to do was the CTA, that's the California Trucking Association. They were trying to say that California's AB5 rule violated part of the Federal Aviation Administration Authorization Act. And basically that act says that you cannot unreasonably impede interstate traffic. So that's what they were going on. And, that was never actually looked at and decided upon. They were going to let the Supreme Court look at that. And since they're not going to look at it, they are now going to have to start doing that. Going back to look at that, I should say. So anyway, they have to go back through all the hoops of filing briefs for this new case, and, they'll have to set a date. They don't expect it's going to be even looked at until December. So hopefully maybe this story will just go away until September. We'll have a few months without talking about it, but who knows? If there's anything relevant, I'll keep reporting on it. Until then, well, I guess, the big things are going to start happening in December again. Either way, I hope the state of California and Governor Newsom comes to their senses and just drops this thing or provides some way around it for truckers. Like I said, they did it for attorneys, real estate agents, and somebody else. Don't remember who, but none of them made as much sense as exempting a trucker from these AB5 rules. So please, California, get your crap together so we can just move on with our lives, okay? Thanks in advance. Freightwaves.com. Hey, since we're all tired of talking about the AB5 thing out in California, I'm going to make this short and sweet. You can check this one out on overdriveonline.com if you want more details, but it's pretty straightforward. You remember a few weeks ago we were talking about how the big protest out at the port of Oakland, where they blocked off all the entrances and exits for, 4 or 5 days, something like that. And they thought everything was just hunky-dory until the following Monday. A lot of the truckers that were involved in that got subpoenas to show up in court, and they were being charged, with a, basically like a restraining order to stay away from the area. And they were a little surprised by that, honestly. Well, I don't know why they should be. I mean, they did block an entire port for a whole week. I don't blame them. I understand their frustration, but, I questioned at the time whether that was a smart thing to do, and apparently it was not, because the Port of Oakland won this case, and now it has been deemed by a court of law that these truckers cannot go back and block the port again. It is technically illegal now. So if they want to protest, they're going to have to do it some other way. So really, like I said, that's about all there is to this. Just keeping you informed on what's going on with AB5. What a freaking mess. Come on, Governor Newsom. Get over yourself. Give them an exemption. I know I must have reported on this next story back in 2019, but I have no recollection of it whatsoever. So what am I talking about here? Landline.media. Lessons learned from 3-year Volvo LIGHTS project. Now, LIGHTS stands for Low Impact Green Heavy Transport Solutions. This is basically a program by Volvo that they collaborated with 14 public and private partners to come up with, quote, robust support ecosystem needed for the deployment of battery electric trucks. So basically, Volvo deployed their first Class 8 Volvo VNR electric trucks into the real world in advance of their when they actually started releasing their first electric model, which was in 2020. According to the website, the total project cost was about $90 million, and they saved 3.57 tons of bad emissions and stuff like that per year. So over 10 years, that equates to 35.7 tons of weighted emissions reductions of these bad pollutants. So there's a step in the right direction. So over this 3-year course, Volvo has, gleaned lots of information. For instance, they were able to identify the ideal routes for electrification within the Southern California region. Now, these routes took into factor vehicle range, the topography, like how hilly that was, ambient temperature, traffic patterns, driving styles, and more. So basically how and where you're driving the truck will affect the, how much range you have and things like that. So they're just looking for the ideal route. And they actually came up with something called the Electric Performance Generator. It's a route planning tool that enables fleet managers to simulate real world routes in Volvo's VNR electric trucks, so they can actually map out a route and see how much, how much range they can expect out of the vehicle on that route and things like that. So that's cool. Volvo Lights also came up with dealer support. When you're talking about electric trucks, you're talking about a new level of maintenance and things like that. So, just different, supposedly they're supposed to be low maintenance, but, it's going to be a different set of problems. When your electric truck breaks down, you're not going to be looking for fuel injection issues, So, there's a whole new set of issues to deal with on the maintenance side. So they made a lot of progress on that. They even went as far as collaborating with Rio Hondo College and San Bernardino Valley College to start heavy-duty electric truck technician training programs. 45 students got into that program. That's probably a good place to be as a new mechanic. Get that on your resume, with all the electric trucks coming. You want to be the first to have that on your resume. And of course, there is the electric vehicle charging stations that are an issue too. They installed 58 of these charging stations around the Southern California area, strategically located, of course. They partnered with Shell on this one and Southern California Edison to make that happen. So they were able to figure out, efficient ways to get these units charged. And the last thing this Lights project seems to have done is it created an organization called Reach Out to inform community stakeholders about the project. So basically, this is talking about how, developing training materials for first responders. We talked about this in an episode 3 or 4 episodes ago, where we were talking about how, firefighters have specific issues to worry about when it comes to these electric trucks and being involved in a wreck, or if they're on fire or whatever. And, this Volvo Lights project even thought about that. So pretty cool stuff here. Going to have to be lots more of these collaborations and trial periods and pilot programs and all this stuff to get this stuff working. Just like we spoke about in the last episode with Pilot and Flying J working with, who was that? Kodiak Robotics? Yeah, I think to, try to figure out how to service these vehicles out on the road in the future. Well, that was more about automated trucks, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. Short-term memory there, Todd. Nice. Of course, these autonomous trucks are also going to go in hand with electric trucks one of these days, so there is a crossover there. But regardless, go and check out this article if you're interested in this Volvo Lights project. Sounds like a pretty cool thing. For details on that, head over to landline.media. It seems like we can't even go one show without talking about some new partnership between an autonomous technology company and a trucking company. Well, this show is no different. We got a couple articles over here, both of them on ttnews.com. That's Transport Topics. First one's pretty quick. This is a company called Gatik, I think it is, Gatik, and they're going to be starting autonomous deliveries in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. They're going to be doing this in autonomous 26-foot box trucks to 34 Sam's Club's locations to start out with. By the way, this is in a partnership with a really old business equipment firm called Pitney Bowes. They're mainly known for their postage meters and other mailing equipment and services. But of course, the goal here is to be more efficient and speed up deliveries, all that good stuff. Now, they do mention that all of these trucks will be monitored by an experienced truck driver sitting behind the wheel. So, they're just going to let the autonomous vehicle do its thing unless it needs, them to jump in. So that's a good thing. So anyway, I don't really have anything more to report on this except for, like I say, this just keeps on happening. The Kodiak Robotics that we talked about in the last episode, they're dealing with Pilot Flying J, trying to figure out how to service these vehicles out on the road and how to get more fuel in them and stuff like that. They're working on a deal there. Well, they partnered, I think it was last year, maybe earlier this year, they partnered with US Express, and they're going to be launching a bunch of autonomous vehicles between Dallas-Fort Worth area and Atlanta. So that's going on. Too Simple and Waymo are also conducting tests down in the Dallas area. So if you are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, start expecting to see some autonomous trucks down there. You'll know them because they got gizmos and gadgets and cameras all over them. And also, you're probably going to look up in the driver's seat and see a really frightened truck driver. I know I would be. But anyway, you can go again to Transport Topics. That's ttnews.com for this one. And let's jump on over to the other one real fast. This one's got some more significance. It's got some interesting stats in it. This one is called Locomation to Begin Runs with Oklahoma Carrier. Now, Locomation we haven't talked about a lot, I don't think, but they are an autonomous truck developer, of course. And this is an 8-year agreement they have signed with Stevens Trucking. They are out of El Reno. I didn't realize they were out of El Reno, Oklahoma. That's just a suburb of Oklahoma City, basically. Well, not a suburb, but it's just outside of Oklahoma City to the west. Is that right? It's been a while since I've been out there. I think it is. But apparently this is the 4th carrier to commit to working with Locomation. They're joining Wilson Logistics, PGT Trucking, and Christensen Transportation. So here is what Locomation specializes in. They call it a human-guided Level 2 Autonomous Relay Convoy, or ARC, A-R-C. And it is a turnkey system that you can install on any truck. Well, it has to be compatible, has to have certain features on it. But, you know, for the most part, it's a general truck. And you can install this autonomous relay convoy, that ARC system. You're going to hear that term a lot in this article here. And you can install that on there. So not only are we dealing with autonomous trucks here, but there is an extra added little kick to this one. This involves platooning also. Now, we talked about platooning, I think, in the last episode. It kind of reared its head again, which was kind of weird. Like I said, it's been out of circulation with the news for quite a while, and just suddenly it seems to be coming back. It's kind of weird. But anyway, for those of you unfamiliar with it, platooning is the system where there are 2 or more trucks, sometimes 3 or 4, depending on how, of course, 2 in the beginning, and that will expand out once this actually starts working. But the whole idea of this is there are 2 trucks. Both of them have trucks and trailers, and they are just following each other really closely, and they are connected through a 2-way radio, and they are autonomous trucks. So the first one is doing all the autonomy. It is looking out at the road. It is deciding what is going on and making the choices. It's braking, it's accelerating, it's changing lanes, all that stuff. But there is a driver sitting in the driver's seat. Now, the back truck and trailer is back there following very closely, drafting off the first vehicle to get better fuel economy. And it is listening, electronically to the first truck. And when the first truck brakes, the second truck brakes. When it accelerates, it accelerates. When it changes lanes, it will change lanes. So now we're not looking at a 70-foot vehicle. We're looking at, 140 foot plus the cushion space in between. So that's going to be interesting to see how they deal with traffic around that. Yowza. But here is the really, really weird thing that I had never heard before. There is going to be a trucker in the second truck also, only he or she is not going to be sitting in the driver's seat. They are going to be resting, off duty. Well, they're going to be in the sleeper berth, I guess. Wow. So the idea here is to be super efficient. Not only are they getting better fuel mileage, they're hauling 2 loads instead of 1. But when one driver finishes their 11-hour shift, the other driver takes over on the front vehicle, and they just keep on rolling while the first driver goes back in the second truck and gets his rest. Man, I do not know about this. They say these are going to be highly skilled drivers. They're going to pick the cream of the crop to watch these trucks. And I just want to know who's going to volunteer for this. I mean, I might volunteer for the first one to sit there and kind of monitor what things are going on, but I I don't know. I'm not comfortable with falling asleep in another truck that's platooning off the front truck. And, some of these distances can be really close, like 20, 40 feet, really, really close to that truck. And you're asleep at the time. If anything goes wrong with those electronics and the first vehicle breaks and you don't, your truck doesn't, and you're fast asleep back there, woo! They talked about raising pay on this, and they are going to have to. Yeah, they would have to for me, for sure, for me to get my butt back there and try to sleep while somebody else is driving, not my truck, but somebody else's, their own truck out in front of me. Yowza. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to see how this works. Very, very interesting stuff here. Now, as of right now, Stevens is not a huge carrier. Well, they're pretty big, but they have 2 divisions, truckload freight and an oil field division. They have 300 tractors and 1,500 trailers, but they eventually want to see this ARC system put in 500 of their trucks, which is interesting because they don't have 500 trucks right now. And they say eventually down the road, they would love to see this in about 10,000 trucks. Now, you may be thinking, how can they expand so fast? Well, here's the thing. Here's those stats I was telling you about. They have put out some numbers that are a little unbelievable, but I suppose they've done the math. I don't know. Anyway, Stevens is forecasting it's going to double its market share on any lane that it's running, probably because if a customer can use them and cover twice the freight in half the time, then, half the time, because instead of a single driver, it would be 2 drivers, but they would just constantly be moving. So customers will find that very efficient, and they will double their market share on any lane that they're running. They also say they're going to reduce empty miles by up to 50%. I'm not exactly sure how that's supposed to work. If you need to run empty somewhere, you need to run empty somewhere, right? Now that's interesting. Wonder how they're getting that number. And they're saying that there's going to be improved fuel efficiency of by more than 20%. So, with the combination of getting more customers up and down these lanes, which are within a 500-mile stretch of Oklahoma City, they say pretty much all their customers are right in there that they're going to be using this with, and the reduced empty miles, and the better fuel efficiency, and twice the freight on one run, well, I guess they're really expecting to expand and go big on this one. So anyway, they say a soft launch for this whole program for all 4 of these carriers we mentioned earlier is scheduled this year, and the full commercial deployment is going to start in 2024. So just be aware that if you are running around down in the Texas, Oklahoma area, you may be seeing some autonomous trucks. And again, this platooning thing is going to freak some people out because you're going to think, oh, great, there's a truck driver tailgating another truck. And then you're going to look up in that second truck and go, guess what? There's no trucker there. Uh-oh. Well, it's all part of the plan. We're going to see how this works. Honestly, I anticipate lots and lots of wrecks, and that will probably put a lot of these things on hold. But especially in the beginning, there's going to be wrecks of all kinds, not just in these platooning vehicles, but in all kinds of autonomous vehicles. I mean, look at how long Tesla's been doing this kind of stuff, and they have wrecks all the time. So, just going to be a lot worse with the truck involved. But anyway, check out both of these articles on ttnews.com. Just check out a link in the show notes to both of them. Interesting times we live in. Sometimes when I read an article, I think to myself, I should explain this in as simple a terms as I can make it for everyone listening to the podcast. But you know what? This is not one of those times. This is one of those times that I just need to point you to the article and say, hey, if you want to understand fuel surcharges, head on over to overdriveonline.com and check it out, because there is lots of examples here, specific examples and how it works and how you can make it work to your benefit, things like that. If you are an owner operator or a lease operator, you probably already understand fuel surcharges. But it is talked about a lot in the industry, and quite honestly, it was probably a couple of decades into this before I even got a tiny little grasp of how fuel surcharges work. Because honestly, as a company driver, I couldn't care less. Makes no difference to me. I'm not paying the fuel costs, but if I were an owner operator or lease operator, I certainly would be concerned about this stuff. So if you are in that boat, or you think you might be in the future and you want to understand fuel surcharges, this article looks like a great way to do it. Check it out on overdriveonline.com. I actually think I may have pointed to this article before, but I don't remember. Either way, it's a good article, good for a refresher course. Head on over there, overdriveonline.com. Hey, do you remember us talking about Mr. Ronnie Brown in the last couple of episodes? Well, he's the driver that thinks he should be exempt from pretty much every hours of service rule and also the ELD. And as we mentioned, there was a commenting period. If you had thoughts on this, and that ends on September 19th. And there's an article here on cdllife.com that says that those comments have gotten over 1,000 people responding to this. Now, of course, as you can imagine, most of these drivers are saying, yes, the hours of service should not be a one-size-fits-all type of a thing. And, they agree with Mr. Brown. And of course, there are some others who say, hey, he shouldn't be exempt from the rules. They give about 5 or 6 examples of different comments in here to show you kind of the whole gambit of what's going on here and how people feel about this. One of the commenters a couple of commenters actually in here mentioned that something I had never quite heard before, that maybe they should just make the ELDs and the hours of service mandatory for those with a certain amount of experience. So for instance, in the first 3 to 5 years, you have to use all of the hours of service and obey them, and all of the, and use the ELD also. And for you non-truckers out there, an ELD is an electronic logging device. But on top of that, some of them are saying it should also be tied to accidents and safety issues like speeding and tickets and stuff like that. So if you can keep your nose clean and just keep it clean, you shouldn't have to follow the rules or use an ELD. But, like if you screw up, maybe you got to use one for a little while until you get back on track. Something like that. Again, I don't see this happening. I don't think they're ever going backwards. I could see an argument for doing it, and I don't really think I need an ELD. I think I can control myself and know when I'm tired and when I'm not, but not everybody can. And where do you draw that line? I mean, one driver might pick up trucking really fast and they're pretty good, in 6 months or a year. And another one can still be 3 or 4 years into it and just not be very good at it and have no self-awareness as to how far they can drive and, tend to push it too far. And that is just all over the map. I don't know how they would ever lay out a guideline just saying, hey, this is the cutoff. If you've worked this long with this many accidents and you're without this many accidents, I should say, then you're fine. You don't have to use them. I just think that's too arbitrary. Don't think it's ever going to happen. Anyway, it's interesting that they've gotten over 1,000 comments on this, and this hasn't even been up for that long, honestly. But if you want to get your thoughts in on this too, or just go check out some of the comments over there, we can read them now, I believe. And again, that commenting period is open until September 19th. Like I say, Mr. Ronnie Brown, good luck with that. Check this out at cdllife.com. Not only is the article here with all the comments, but there is also a link you can follow to submit your own comment. And if I can remember, I'll try to put that in the show notes as a separate link too. Matter of fact, I'll do that right now because I know my little pea brain will forget by the end of this episode. Well, that's going to do it for the news this week. But you know what? I hear tell that someone submitted a Trucker Grub segment. Who could it be?
Give us a bottle of your finest champagne, 5 shrimp cocktails, and some bread for my brother.
What's that?
Sushi.
Sushi?
Boy, some chicken wings have really hit the spot.
This is a tasty burger.
Don't play with your food, eat it.
Oh, cool. We finally got a submission for Trucker Grub. I wonder who it could be.
Hey, man, how's it going? It's Fred.
Fred? Oh, dear God, not Fred.
Yeah, it's me. It's Fred.
Okay, guys, I won't do that to you. I really won't. If you're wondering what that's all about, just don't go back and check it out. Just don't. Anyway, I would like to report on Burrito Junction. Yeah, we talked about that in a few episodes ago. Part of Pilot Flying J's new Horizon deal thing that they're doing is, revamping a lot of their facilities. And the first and one of the things they're going to do is add something called Burrito Junction, which is like a truck stop version of Chipotle. And the first one went in at Corbin, Kentucky. That is I-75, exit 29. And I actually made it through there during afternoon hours the other day. I was hoping to catch them for breakfast, but it was not available. I caught the lunch and the dinner and the rest of it. So anyway, it's set up pretty much like a Chipotle. I went in there, looked at what they had to offer. They've got pretty much everything Chipotle's got. They had I think they called it Serrano brisket or something like that. She said that was a bit spicy. And yeah, I'm not into spicy. I was looking at the brisket until she told me it was spicy. They've got a smoked chicken. And let me give you the prices on these, by the way. I did notice the burrito prices because that's what I got, because it's easy to eat going down the road. Let's see, that Serrano brisket was like $11 for a burrito. The smoked chicken was like $10. Then they had regular ground beef that was seasoned for like $9, I think it was. And then they had a veggie option for $7. And of course they got breakfast bowls, and I think you can do quesadillas and tacos. But, like I say, I would normally get a bowl, but, going down the road, that's not such a good thing. So I needed to book it. So a burrito it was. So I opted for the smoked chicken. You can put all the pico on it. They've got some corn type stuff. They got guacamole, sour cream, lettuce, tomato, all that good stuff that you might want to put on a burrito. Of course, lots of queso you can put on there too. Cheese, just regular shredded cheese. And boy, it was a mammoth burrito. I wanted to put a lot more stuff on it, but I knew they wouldn't be able to close it up. So I cut it off at some point. And I got to say, it was pretty good. I mean, I'm not going to say it was as good as Chipotle, but it was pretty darn good for a truck stop. And it was certainly filling. I will give it that. And if they keep these places open, which the lady who made my burrito said they were definitely going to be keeping these open 24/7. So I hope that's the case, because this will be a really good option for truckers, I think, overnight. It'll beat the heck out of a cold sandwich or a corn dog, or some chicken strips that have been up there for about 5 hours. This is kind of laid out like a Subway, how everything, stays hot and fresh and that kind of thing. Well, not a Subway. Subway doesn't have a lot of hot stuff, but you get the idea. It's got the stainless steel pans down in there, and, everything is, stays nice and heated. So I got to admit, the prices were a little bit higher than I expected them to be, but hey, this is a truck stop, and, like I said, these will be open in the middle of the night. So, sometimes you got to pay a little bit of a premium for that. I will still go in here and check out the breakfast ones, because I'm really more interested. I love breakfast burritos. So really, really interested in that one. And honestly, the next time I go in there for lunch or dinner, I will probably try the beef version, just for a change of pace. So I always tell you, I'd like to hear about the atmosphere of the place. Well, it's a truck stop. What do you expect? Yeah, nothing special there, that's for sure. You go in, get your stuff, and you're lucky if you can find a place to sit. And you normally just take it back out to the truck and eat it out in the truck. But hey, I am not going to complain, because any options is good options at this point. So, like I said at the beginning, if you want to check this out, there is only one Burrito Junction in the United States right now, and that is in Corbin, Kentucky, I-75, exit 29. So if you have your own interesting place to eat, or you would like to report on this Burrito Junction yourself, have at it. Just make sure it's an audio only. That's all this is. I do not take text on this. So make sure you just get your voice memo app on your phone, turn the truck off, talk into the microphone, tell me about the place you like to go eat that you can get to in a truck, where you park, how to get there, what exit. If you can give me a website, that'd be great. Tell me what your favorite meal is there, kind of atmosphere, prices, what kind of food it is, all that good stuff. Maybe your experience with a cool waitress or whatever the story may be here. Try to keep it all in about 3 minutes, which I broke in this because, hey, it's my podcast. And just send it off to truckerdump@gmail.com. Thanks in advance. And now that I said thanks in advance, that means somebody has to submit one for next week.
Hey, yo, bud, where do you want this load of feedback?
I'd really love to say that my massive guilt trip from the last listener feedback segment paid off, but it didn't. Nobody still wrote in. What a surprise. Good thing I had overlooked one from before. This one's from a gentleman named Bryan Deffinger. He writes, I thought I heard you say on the podcast that you had a job that paid really good and was local. I'm currently driving for JB Hunt making $95,000. Nice. But I'm away from home far too much. Not nice. Looking to make the same, but home more. Do you know of something in the Cincinnati area? And I wrote him back an email. I'm just going to read it off to you here because, it could pertain to you also. But before I read this, as I've said many, many times, I do not recommend any particular trucking company. Like, I'm just not going to say, hey, you need to work for this company. That's who I work for. Or I used to work for this company. They're great. Do them. Because there's just too much variety in this industry. I'm not going to point you at something because what's important to you at a job is probably not the same thing that's important for me. It's always not about pay for everybody. Sometimes it's about home time. Sometimes it's about equipment. Sometimes it's about how fast you can go. Sometimes it's about whether it's union or non-union. Whatever it is, I can't call that out. Now, I am going to name some companies in here, but I'm not necessarily recommending them or anything like that. I just want to make that clear. So I wrote back, and first I apologized to Bryan because I missed his email. I actually flagged it to respond and completely forgot. Oopsie. Anyway, I wrote back, as I've said on the podcast many times, most of the best paying company driving jobs are at LTL companies. Gee, I bet you that surprised every single one of you I was going to say that, right? Anyway, FedEx, UPS, Old Dominion, Saia, Yellow, including all their 4, YRC, Holland, New Penn, Redaway, Arnell, Dayton Freight, etc. Any of those. There should be lots of those to choose from in the Cincinnati area. And honestly, if you live in any big city, there's lots of those options. So that pertains to anybody. Now, the harder part is when you live in a smaller area, there's far less to choose from, and maybe you'll have to drive to a big city to get one of those, and maybe it just won't be worth it. By the way, that's all extra stuff that was not in the email, but there you go, Bryan. That's for you too. I went on. Many of these jobs can have you home every day, or at least every week, which is far better than most over-the-road companies. Typically, the road jobs are graveyard shift. That's the biggest money usually. And the city delivery jobs are day shift or evening shift, and of course are less money. Another place to look is companies that run their own fleets. Obviously, Walmart's one of those. We all know they pay great. And in my area, there's actually a Casey's General Store fuel depot, and they pay pretty good. It's a little bit too far away from my house and I want to drive, but it seems like a really good paying job, and it is home every day. Same thing for Love's fuel haulers. That's actually a company called Gemini. I did check into them a long time ago, and they didn't have anything available at the time, or I might have went with them. Honestly, they seem pretty good to me, but again, that's just what I was looking for. They do have long shifts. It's like a 12-hour day, and you split the truck with another driver. You do 12 hours. I think it's 4 a.m. to 4 p.m., and then the other driver 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. So, just driving around in your local area, delivering to Love's fuel to Love's stores most of the time. I think they might do some other stores and locations, but I'm not sure about that. So anyway, I know they pay pretty good. I talked to some of their drivers. If you're interested in that, the name of that company is Gemini. Of course, there are food service trucking companies like Cisco, McLean, US Foods, Golden. There's a crap load of them. They pay pretty good, and they have to pay pretty good because it is a very physical job. You are going to be very, very, it's going to tax your body quite a bit doing that. There's lots of lifting, box by box, putting it on a 2-wheel dolly, run it all the way down a ramp and into the bottom of a McDonald's warehouse or a basement or something. So lots of work there. That is a young man's game. I once talked to a guy who said he was in his early 50s. This is back when I was in my 40s, and he was just saying, I got to get out of here. I think he was working for McLean. He said, it's a great company, but I'm just too old for this crap. And he was looking for something else. It is a very physical job. Actually, one of the guys I trained recently came from one of these jobs, and he said he was, in his mid 40s, and he was just trying to get out of it because he could see where it was going. So it's a young man's game for sure. And I said young man, but I meant young woman also. But like I said, it is a very physical job. Lots of heavy lifting. Those boxes of meat are not light, but have at it, ladies, if you're up for it. But I'm also going to say, don't expect any help. Okay. This gender thing, it's like, hey, if you can do the job, do the job. If you can't, don't apply for that job. Try something else. Okay. All right. I also asked him, I was assuming that he had checked into JB Hunt's intermodal stuff. They have the stuff that goes on the rail, and that is often more of a regional job. It's like out every week. You get home on the weekends or at least sometime throughout the week, at least once a week. And often you will get home at various times throughout the week. So you might get home 2 or 3 times per week plus the weekend. And that weekend may be a Friday and Saturday, Sunday and Monday. It could be a Tuesday and a Wednesday, whatever. But anyway, I've never worked for anything like that, but I've heard that they make decent money for how long you've been home. Actually, the same guy who worked for the food company tried JB Hunt Intermodal for a while, and he was pretty happy with it, but he just wanted to be home a little bit more often. He wanted to be home every day. So he ended up coming on to mine, figured out he wasn't going to be home every day, and then switched to a city driver. And now he's home every day, pretty happy. And again, that is in the LTL industry, so he's, even more happy with the money. But of course, as with most things, leaving LTL out of this conversation, with most things, I've said this many, many times, the more you are home, the less you are going to get paid. That's just what the trucking industry does. They pay for you to be away from home. Kind of like me, I get paid really well, but they're paying me not only be away from home all week, but also to drive all night long. That's part of why the premium is on road drivers for LTL, because they drive overnight, and a lot of people just don't want to do that. Can you say driver Chris Mack? I can. Good thing he doesn't listen to this podcast anymore because the news bores him. All right. Anyway, I hope this helps you, the listener. Bryan said it helped him some, so I hope that is good advice. Please, just check out the LTL industry. I'm telling you, even the city jobs, they are physical, but they're not as physical as something like the food service jobs. You may have to unload some freight here and there, but a lot of it's just pallet jacks, things like that, delivering to customers. If you want to be home every day, more of a city job. Also, the line haul stuff does have home every day, but sometimes that is a seniority thing where, it takes a little while for you to get a run that runs out and back. And, you can sometimes get one of those, but it's like low miles because you're at the bottom of the seniority list and you don't get your pick of freight of runs. But, if you put in a little bit of time at these LTL companies, you'll start getting better runs. And, hey, if you want to go out on the open board like I do, you make the buku. That's where the big bucks is. Like I said, I thought people were lying to me for 22 years until I decided to try it for myself and realized, gee, they weren't lying to me for 22 years. I'm just a moron who didn't follow up on it. So take that for what it's worth. As always, I want to thank anybody who writes into the show, and this time that is Bryan. So thank you very much, Bryan. I appreciate it. And next time you write, I'll try not to wait so darn long to respond to it. Pinky swear. And of course, you know who else I want to thank, right? Porter Freight Funding. Yep, they sponsored this episode of the show, and I appreciate it. You can check them out at porterfreightfunding.com/truckerdump, Trucker Dump is all one word, or give them a call at 205-397-0934. There will be links in the show notes to that, and please go on over there and check them out. Tell them the Trucker Dump sent you if you call, because every little bit helps the show. Thank you. So with that, I guess we ought to just wrap this puppy up and get on out of here. I don't know about you, but I'm getting out my air guitar. Let's say this week we focus on you helping me get the word out on the show. Try this. Say you find yourself sitting around a bunch of truckers at a truck stop. Just say, hey, did you hear about these deals the truck stops are giving truckers for Truck Driver Appreciation Week? I heard about it on the Trucker Dump podcast. Yeah, I know it sounds cheesy, but you know how many times I've slipped in the name of podcasts on this show? Then simply lie to them about how much you love the show and tell them to Google Trucker Dump Podcast or go to abouttruckdriving.com. But seriously though, word of mouth is still the best way to help the show. I'd really appreciate it, and as always, I appreciate you for listening every week. So until next time, drive safe and stay out of my way. In today's show, we talk about new autonomous I know we'd all like to just see this. I know we'd all just like to hear. We all wish that the AB5. We'd all like to see I think we'd all like to see California's. Get your thoughts together, man. Good grief. So everyone get in there and check out these deals. Make sure you slipe. And thanks to Lanier Law Firm. And thanks to Lanier Law Firm for